Alrighty, so I apologize for the bad sound quality of this recording because I am at the hospital. Apparently we're in early labor, so we got a bit of time, so I'm going to record your lectures now. So first let's finish off lecture 1. Before I get started though, Science and Environment Co-op is having an info session on January 18th, so do go check it out if you have a chance. I'll talk a little more about that later. Alright, so to continue off where we left off last week, I was going over the steps you should take if you want to do well in this course. So to review, the first step was to prepare for a lecture by watching your pre-lecture videos, watching as many times as you need to make sure you understand and absorb those terminology and concepts so that we can learn, kind of start applying them in lecture. As often as possible, also skim the textbook sections that I've assigned you before you come to lecture as well for a better understanding of the details. Once you've done that, then come to lecture, participate, and as soon as possible afterwards, review your lecture notes and add more to them, and also read your textbook and add to your notes as well, focusing on understanding the concepts well. So those are your first two steps, which we went over last week. So the third step is to apply what you learned towards solving problems. All right, in particular, new problems that you hadn't seen before. So this is where you start to use mastering genetics. So the bare minimum that you're going to have to do is, number one, go on to Mastering Genetics, and there's already a practice assignment opened right now, and you can start doing some practice questions. So you want to spend at least 1 hour a week doing this, more if you have time. The benefits of doing this practice assignment first is, one, you will understand and retain what you learned in lecture better because you're actually using them rather than just reading about them. Also, you'll get better marks in your weekly quiz as well. In a couple of ways. One way is that you've actually practiced a bunch of questions before you do your quiz, so of course you'll do better on the quiz itself. But also I'll give you bonus marks for doing this practice every week as well. So for every practice assignment, if you look at the instructions, it'll tell you how many points you need to earn in order to get bonus marks for that week's quiz. So as long as you get that minimum number of marks, doing as many questions as you need to, then you can get, I think I put 2 bonus marks for that week's quiz. Alright, now the reason why I'm doing that is, one, just to encourage you to to use good learning habits, to do this practice every week, so just as a carrot to get you doing this practice every week, but also to decrease your stress levels. I know some of you want to get a really good mark in this class, and you might stress out about every mark that you lose in the quiz, so this is a way to re-earn some of those marks for free. Alright, so a bit of a tip in terms of these practice assignments, focus on doing the questions that you find hard. Right? Some of you might be in a rush and think, oh, I'm just going to do the easy questions, just get those bonus marks. But don't do that. One, because doing questions that you find easy is a waste of time. It might feel good, but you don't actually learn anything. Second reason being that I've actually skewed the grading of these questions so that the harder questions are worth more. So if you want to get the bonus marks faster, still do the harder questions. That way I'm encouraging you to really learn to do things that are worth your time. Alright. Also, do work with your classmates, work with your peer tutors. Feel free to talk to each other about these questions. Alright. So that's first thing, is to do some practice assignment questions, and then once you've done at least an hour of that, more if you have time, then go ahead and write your quiz. Alright, the quiz hasn't been posted yet. That'll be posted on Thursday once you've learned everything you need to learn for your quiz. And that's worth 10% of your total grade. Okay, so these are worth a big chunk of your marks. So that'll take you less than an hour. They're due on Mondays at 9 p.m. so that you have the whole weekend on Monday to kind of get ready and to do your quiz. And then you'll still have some time after you do the quiz to watch your pre-lecture videos in advance before Tuesday's lecture. So we're kind of like going through a cycle of learning on Tuesday and Thursday, practice and quiz over the weekend, then starting again afresh the following Tuesday. So good news about your quizzes, I will omit your worst quiz mark. So if you miss one because you were really sick or something like that, or you just screwed up in the quiz, that's fine, we'll omit your worst quiz. The only one, because since it's online, you can kind of find a way to do it one way or another. But do email me if there's any problems. Important thing is, when you're doing your quizzes, make sure you treat this as a proper exam situation where you're completing it on your own, right? Don't be getting help from each other or working together or sharing answers to these quizzes. We do have ways of finding out who's been cheating online. We have systems for searching for that. So if we do catch any cheaters, both people will lose the entire 10% of their grade. That's a pretty serious penalty. A couple more tips, since these quizzes are worth a lot. Number one is use the hints that are provided by Mastering Genetics. So for quite a few questions, there's like 1 to 3 hints that they give you. So anytime you're not sure of what you should be doing, if you're a little bit stuck, go ahead and hit the hints buttons and use them. The hints are made to teach you how to approach the questions. Sometimes I'll give you an example to work through that's similar for you to figure out how to do things. So they're very, very helpful hints. And the reason why you should use them is because they cost a lot fewer marks than if getting the question wrong. Right? For example, for the quiz, using a hint only costs you about 10% of what that question is worth. Whereas if you were to just kind of guess at it and get it wrong, you lose the full mark right away. All right, so it's worth it to use every single quiz, every single hint rather than to get it wrong. For practice assignments, I make the hints cost even less. It's only 5% of that particular question is lost when you use a hint. Because for practice assignments, I do give you multiple chances to get the right answer, but each time you get the answer wrong, you're still going to lose like at least 20, if not 50% of the mark based on how many possible answers there are. So generally speaking, hints are very much worth your while. They are very cheap relative to what you lose getting the answer wrong. Okay, if you have questions about this, feel free to email me about it anytime. All right, so let's one more quick tip is to start on this practice and these quizzes early to make sure you can finish it on time, because if you hand it in late, you'll get 0. Okay, so do make sure that you get it in on time. All right, so having done that Mastering Genetics practice, the last step is to bring your abilities, your problem-solving abilities to the exam level. All right, so the first bare minimum step you need to take is to make sure you participate fully in every tutorial. So attend tutorial and participate fully. Right, so the reason why tutorials are so important is because if you think about it, the exams are actually worth 80% of your grade. So most of your grade is in your exams, but the questions in Mastering Genetics are actually not as hard as the exam ones. All right, the reason being that the exam questions are written and they're not just multiple choice, so that makes it so the questions can be quite a bit bigger and more elaborate, but also because the questions can also integrate multiple topics, whereas the Mastering Genetics ones have to only quiz you on kind of one topic at a time. All right, so in order to get ready for the more difficult, higher, like exam level problems, first thing, go to tutorial, right? Your TAs will basically give you questions that you haven't seen before to practice with, so you can practice actually answering questions in exam conditions. They'll give you some strategies to get you to discuss good strategies for approaching these kinds of new problems, and also give you some targeted coaching based on kind of how they see you're doing inside these tutorials as well. All right, in general, it's basically practice and coaching session for your exams is what your tutorials can be. Alright, so when you come to tutorials, be ready to ask questions about anything you're not sure about from lectures or your Mastering Genetics or anything like that. Be ready to answer exam questions, because very often the TAs will give you a question to do, and they'll tell you to either work on it alone or with groups or both. So follow their instructions to do it. Do those questions. You may be asked to mark your own answers or peer mark your answers. This is a way for you to learn what we're actually looking for and what is the difference between a 10 out of 10 answer and an 8 out of 10 answer, for example. And also be ready to discuss your strategies with each other as well. All right, so that's kind of the first step to getting ready for exams, is to go to tutorials and participate. The next thing bare minimum thing you have to do is also do a few more questions on your own. All right, so in that lecture schedule table at the bottom of the home page on Canvas, there are these files called PEQs, so your practice exam questions. So these are questions that have been used in past BISC 202 midterm and final exams. So you want to do at least 3 of them every week. All right, so when you're doing these, I want you to do them in exam conditions. All right, so that means not looking at notes, don't look at your textbook, don't look at any examples that you've had before, and don't get hints from anybody. Basically do it completely by yourself. Alright? Also, only give yourself 1.5 minutes to earn each mark. Alright? So if it's a 4-mark question, you have 6 marks to write as best an answer you can in that 6 minutes and stop there. Alright? Once you've done that, bring whatever you've written in that 6 minutes and to me or to your TA or to your tutor, to your peer tutors that week, and get some feedback on it. Right? So you're on average spending about an hour on this a week at least. Okay, so to do some questions in about half an hour and to bring them in for feedback. All right, the benefits of doing this is, 1, you're giving yourself realistic practice for exams. All right, and as you practice and get better at this, you'll get more confident as well. Also, you'll get less confusion between each week's topics, because you're really reviewing it to the high exam level before you start adding the next week's materials on top of it. Alright, so at bare minimum, do about 3 to 4 of these questions and get feedback on them every week to ideal learning, do many more. Do as many as you can and get feedback often. All right. So spend as much as 6 more hours on it if you can every week. All right. Some warnings when it comes to these PEQs. Number one, don't waste them by going to a tutor and asking them how to do it. Don't get answers or hints from anyone else. Okay. What you should always be doing is, on your own, write the best answer you can without looking at anything online or in a textbook, right? Write the best answer you can, like an exam, and then bring them in to talk to us about it, right? This is why I didn't give you guys an answer key to any of these PEQs, because I don't want you looking at the answers and saying, oh, that's how it's done, and losing the opportunity to figure it out for yourself. So instead, do the best you can with that exam amount of time, bring in your answer, and we'll say, okay, so far you would have gotten about half the marks. Let's talk about what you could have done better, what you should do next, how do you figure out the next step, that kind of thing. We want to coach you from there, all right? Because to get the answer from someone else would be a total waste of that question. You lose an opportunity to learn it on your own. Second thing, don't do more than 2 or 3 of these questions without then getting feedback before you do more. Right? Another mistake that people do is they don't do any questions for a while, and then 2 weeks before the exam they say, okay, I'm going to do a whole bunch this weekend. They do like 20 questions. They'll bring them in, and most of them are wrong because you're making the same mistake again and again without anybody catching you. And you basically end up kind of training yourself, bad habits and bad decisions. All right? So do a couple questions, get feedback, then do more after that. Right? So to get that back and forth feedback, you're going to have to start early as well. Right? Don't wait until a week or 2 before the exams to do your PEQs, because when you come to tutorials and office hours, you'll find that they're very busy. And the way we do things is we don't just let you sit there and go over 20 questions at a time, right? If there's 5 people in my office, I will take turns and have each person ask a question at a time, which means that if you did 20 questions, you may only be able to ask about 2 or 3 of them per hour, right? If you're sharing with everyone else, right? So start early, do this every week so that you can get your feedback and you can identify and fix your mistakes as you go, rather than, running out of time to do that before exams. All right? So to summarize the 4 steps you should be taking to succeed in this course, right, as well as the hours per week, which you'll need for your bonus assignment. First thing, prepare for lecture by watching your pre-lecture videos and then skimming the textbook as well. Second, go to your lectures and participate, and then review as soon as possible afterwards and add more to your notes. And also read your textbook and add more to your notes as well. Along this way, you'll also earn 5% for your answers to my clicker questions. Third thing is, once you've done the lections and learned the basics, start applying them, right? Use Mastering Genetics to do your practice assignments as well as your quiz every week, all right? So basically from Tuesday onwards, you can start doing your practice assignment and applying what you learned. From Thursday onward, you can do your quiz anytime after that and finish by Monday. Last step is to get ready for the exam. First by going to your tutorials and earning that 5% for participation and attendance. Then after that, working on your own to do some practice questions and to get some feedback from us. All right. So also do as many as you can for optimal learning. All right. So in total, this these 4 steps will earn you 20% of your course grade. After that, the other 80% is your exam. So each exam is worth about the same. So both your midterms are worth 25% each, because I'm giving you 2 hours for those. And then your final exam is worth a little bit more because it's slightly cumulative in that you do need to know the general foundational concepts from the early weeks for your final exam, but I won't ask you anything specific from the first few sections, right? Which is why it's worth a bit more, but not a humongous chunk, all right? That kind of spreads out your marks so that if you screw up on one, it won't completely ruin your grade. All right, so getting back to the bonus assignment finally. So this bonus assignment is just for bonus marks, and it will, I guess I'll probably push back the deadline to Monday at 9 p.m. just to give you a little more time to work on it. All right. So for this homework, what I want you to do, it's a very simple assignment, is 1, print out your weekly schedule. So go to go.sfu.ca or just write it on a piece of paper, what you need to do hour by hour every week, and add in not just your course stuff, but also any hours you need to work or volunteer in a lab or whatever you're doing. And once you've done that, I want you to then schedule in time, like what day and what time of the day are you going to do each of these steps listed here. All right, all of your bare minimum steps as well as your optimal steps. Okay, make sure that you're scheduling in such a way that you'll always have time to finish each of these steps before you go to lecture or before the due date for the assignment. All right, once you've done that, submit just a photo of it to me, or a scan of it if you have a scanner, but just a photo would be fine as well. So if you go to Canvas, go click on assignments, click on week 1 bonus homework, you can just upload the photo and you're done. That's it. Okay. So as far as assignments are concerned, it's only this assignment that's going to be submitted on Canvas. From now on, after this, all of your assignments and quizzes will be in Mastering Genetics, and they'll be posted as they're being assigned, right? So your practice assignment for week 2 is up now. Your quiz will be up on Thursday, okay, after we've taught that lecture, okay? So, just a couple more topics I wanted to talk about for lecture 1. One is I want to talk a little bit more about why it's so important that you build these problem-solving skills. Of course, as we talked about before, it's important if you want to get a good grade in 202, and also in your upcoming courses as well. But another reason is because in the future, for the grad school or medical school or jobs that you're going to be doing in the future, being able to do problem solving is very important because, so yeah, whether you're doing research, doing a MD, doing other careers and so forth. The reason why problem solving is so important is because the world's kind of changed, right? Back in the day, a lot of careers are based on what you've learned from books, like knowing the facts, knowing information, right? For example, lectures were built around the fact that books were really expensive to produce, so you would go to class because the dude in front would have the textbook and can show it to you and tell you what you need to know, and you write it down and memorize it, right? And back in the day, to be a doctor, it means that you've seen these kinds of diagrams and you can, you know where to stick that needle if someone's hearing voices and whatnot, and do a lobotomy and end up taking someone who's hearing voices to someone who can barely move or think, right? So I mean, that's kind of what medicine was like, was you learn what others did, you see the diagram, you do it yourself, and that's it, right? But nowadays, that's not really how it works, right? We don't hire doctors because they memorize the textbook. We hire them because they can solve problems, right? Because information is readily available, right? That diagram, you can look it up online in 2 seconds on your phone, right? But there's a lot of other information you can find online as well, like medicines and different drugs and how they interact and their side effects and so forth. You can also look information on different types of counseling that someone could do, and how they might work with these medications, and also how important it might be to have a good support network. Right? What we need is not someone who has the facts. We need someone who can take these facts and to apply them to new problems. For example, as a patient comes in with a particular problem, can you take all of this information and find a treatment plan that would really help them? All right. So if you want to be useful, if you want to be a good doctor, if you want to be a good scientist, you need to start practicing these skills now. So that's why this course is built the way it is. I mean, why you should focus on learning these skills, because that's what we hire you for in the future. One last thing is I want to give a couple pieces of advice to you guys since you are second-year students. First piece of advice is get to know your profs and lecturers, right? So people like myself and any other profs that you're taking courses from as well. One reason you want to do that is because when you're applying for scholarships or exchanges or medical school or grad school in the future, you're going to need 3 to 4 reference letters, strong ones, right? So I'm guessing most of you don't have 4 people you can ask for reference letters right now, so you probably have some catching up to do. So to help start this out by making us not be complete strangers, I'll start by trying to learn all of your names probably within the next couple of weeks. So that's why your TAs will be taking photos of you guys in tutorial this week. Don't worry, we're not going to post these photos online. We're basically just going to print out sheets with like 16 tiny little pictures on them for this TAs to use in class, and I'll also use them to learn your names. So basically only myself and your TA will ever see these photos. So that's a starting point, just so that we know each other a little bit, but it's up to you to come talk to me after that so we can get to know each other and I can find out what you're about and how you're doing in the class and so forth. Just as a warning, like last week I had someone come to me and say, they got an interview for UBC Med, which is great because they're still an undergrad and they managed to get an interview, which is a huge step. And he asked me for a reference, but unfortunately I couldn't because, except for knowing his name and knowing that he did well in 101 2 years ago, I knew nothing else about him. He's never talked to me. I don't really know him. So unfortunately I had to tell him I couldn't do a reference. So do come talk to me in office hours. I do enjoy talking to students, and if you want to have a good reference letter, you have to actually know the person you're asking. All right, so do that for your other profs and lecturers as well. Second thing is do get some research experience as soon as you can. So co-op is a great way to do that. Apply for co-op now. Even if you don't plan on doing every single semester of it, do it just to learn the skills for how to get your CV ready, how to get ready for interviews and so forth, and also just to get some research experience as well. Another thing you can do if you don't want to commit to co-op right away is just find someone to volunteer for. Contact your profs, talk to your TAs, and find out, is there something you can help with, even just 2 or 3 hours a week, right? By doing that, you get a lot of hands-on experience and also possibly some publications and stuff as well. So things like publications, research experience, hand-on skills, these will greatly increase your applications to everything afterwards for med school, for grad school, and so forth. So get started on that soon. What you really don't want to do is just graduate with a piece of paper, right? It doesn't matter how many A's you have on that piece of paper. If you have no hands-on skills, you have no real experience, it's going to be really hard to get a job. All right, so yeah. If you're not sure how to get started, if you kind of are worried now and want to get started on some of this stuff but don't know how, come see me anytime, right? I'd be very happy to kind of give you some advice and guidance, all right? As I said before, this is what I'm here for. I do love this job. All right, thank you for listening. I will post your other parts of this lecture coming up soon.